Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to LA Word Devotional. My name is Adam, and you know what? I hope and pray that you guys had a wonderful and blessed Easter as we celebrated Jesus Christ's resurrection. Not just yesterday, but daggone it, you know, Jesus is alive. He's conquered the grave. There's victory in Him every single day of our lives. Just yesterday was just more of the celebration that we are who we are because of Jesus Christ and what He's done, that He has conquered the grave and He has redeemed us. Now, today I want to look at the book of Acts. If you're not familiar with Acts, it's in the New Testament. It's Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and the book of Acts, chapter 8, verses 26 through 40. I'm not going to read all of this. I'm going to cover a couple verses here and there, but this is going to be really exciting. I've kind of entitled this as questioning of the unknown or fear of the unknown, because I think a lot of times, you know, when God calls us out to do something, whether it's move to a different state or quit your job or move to a different job or move to a different location, or your kids are growing up or going to middle school or high school, whatever the situation may be in life, we fear of the unknown, and we do that. A lot of times we don't want to kind of step out of our comfort zones or our boxes or whatever that we're used to, even though when God calls us out to be, whatever the life situation may be, not just pertaining to ministry. And so today I want to look at, you know, there was an apostle named Philip. And I want to look at Philip and the Ethiopian. And as we read this, I'm going to be kind of breaking down some of the verses. So pay special close attention to what I'm telling you. And then if I don't have enough time in this section, I will post up another video of how we'll have some challenging questions to our lives and how the scriptures pertain to us. So, if you will, let's look at verse 26. It starts out like this. It says, "Now an angel of the Lord said to Philip, 'Go south to the road, the desert road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza.'" Now let me start out with that. First of all, God sends the angel. He speaks it. He speaks it to Philip the apostle. Now notice how he says, "Go." Okay? Hence, go. Don't question, go. South to the road, the desert road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza. Now, I was interesting, as I was doing some research on today's passage that we'll be looking at, you know, that particular road, that desert road, you know, God had Philip take a different route than what would be normal for the people to be traveling from Jerusalem to Gaza. As a matter of fact, that particular road, that desert road, is desolate. Okay, there's not many people on it. A lot of times at nighttime, there's bandits and so forth. So if you're like me, and I'm sure Philip is the same team, you kind of gotta be like, "Lord, why are you calling me out to do this? Why don't I just take this route or go down this road or whatever? Why on this specific road?" Okay, again, it's the fear of unknown, right? Now, let's look on. So, he started out. Look at that. There was obedience in there. You notice that? There's trust. There's obedience in there. So he started out on his way, and he met an Ethiopian eunuch, and an important official in charge of all the treasure of Candace, queen of the Ethiopians. This man had gone to Jerusalem to worship. Let's stop right there. So first of all, so he started out. So there was obedience. Didn't question, you know, well, maybe he did. Maybe I have some questions, but Lord, I'm going to trust in you and be obedient to you. And so, okay, you know, you told me to go, I'm going to go. So he goes, and all of a sudden, he meets this Ethiopian eunuch. Now, in Ethiopia is actually south of Egypt. And an eunuch is a man who was castrated. She's going to tell you it's cut off. And they actually serve, a lot of times their positions, they're mostly mentioned in the Old Testament, a lot of their positions are to be treasurers, okay? Now, I want you to notice this, because in chapters 8, verses 9 through 25, it's talking about Philip and Samaria, okay? And they were half Jews, and even then they were considered half-breeds in the Jewish culture, and the people didn't really appreciate them. You look at this, and now Luke, the writer, is talking about a completely different ethnic group. One, he's an Ethiopian. Okay? So that would have been south of Egypt. Primarily, this man would have been black. Second of all, he would have been a Gentile. Okay? So God is telling us he's doing a work. The gospel is expanding. Now, I want you to notice this. So he started out, on his way, he met the Ethiopian Enoch, an important official in charge of all the treasure of Candace, queen of the Ethiopians. This man had gone to Jerusalem to worship. Now, why do I tell you that? Why do you think, God had Luke, inspired by the Holy Spirit, to write this? Watch this. Okay, as he went to Jerusalem to worship, notice that, okay? So you have a Gentile who, was seeking the Lord. He was seeking to know who God is. So he goes to Jerusalem for worship. Now, to put that in context of today, that's like, since the man was an Ethiopian, since he was not a Jew and he's a Gentile, everything's kind of against him. There were certain barriers or walls that were put up for his worship. So that's kind of like you going to church today and someone coming up to you and saying, hey, because you're such and such, you're going to have to sit outside of our building, or you might sit in the parlor, whatever it may be called, or the outside of the sanctuary. But you can't come in the sanctuary because of who you are. You can listen to the preaching and the worship and everything outside of the sanctuary because of who you are. Do you notice that? Okay, because of who this man was. Now, notice this though. And on his way home was sitting in his chariot reading the book of Isaiah the prophet. Now, let me tell you this. This man had to be wealthy. For one, he owned his own chariot. Okay? And I'll explain how do I know that as well too. One, he would have added his own chariot. And then two, he had his own copy of reading the scroll of the book of Isaiah. Okay? And so he's reading this, right? And so it's customary for memory to read out loud. Now let's pick up in verse 30. Then Philip ran up to the chariot and heard the man reading Isaiah the prophet. Do you understand what you are reading? Philip asked. Alright, I got a little ahead of myself. Verse 29 says, the Spirit told Philip, go to that chariot and stay near it. Alright, again, the word go is mentioned twice here. Another crazy thing, kind of fearful, don't know this man, don't know who he is. God, you're telling me to go up to this man and speak to him. But notice that Philip does it. He goes. In verse 30, then Philip ran up to the chariot and heard the man reading Isaiah the prophet. Do you understand what you are reading? Philip asked. 31. How can I? He said, unless someone explains it to me. So he invited Philip to come up and sit with him. Now, you look at verse 26 and you look at verse 31. That's the whole reason. That's the whole reason of why God had Philip go down that desolate road, because of one particular individual. That's the whole reason. Before then, he would have never known. And because of the time constraint on this video, I'm going to do another video that goes along that we're going to pick up. Okay? And we're going to look at how exciting it is, and also how fearful it is in our own lives of not knowing. But when we're obedient, when we trust in God, we see the outcome of what God has us to do in our lives when we're obedient. And we're going to look at that in our next video, okay? So stay tuned. Thanks.